Welkom bij aflevering 297 van de Vierkante Paal. Vandaag spreken we een ex-speler. Amper 26 officiële wedstrijden waren genoeg om zich in de harten van de Antwerpfans te spelen. En ja, één ex-speler dachten we, nee, we gaan eens 2 ex-spelers doen. Ik ben Thomas Lembroek.
Ik ben Duncan.
Ik ben Gunter Ribus.
Luke Chadwick.
Great, thanks and welcome. All right, we'll continue in English from this point onwards. Otherwise, it would be a weird conversation with you, Luke, because you were at Royal Antwerp 23 years ago, and I can't imagine you have learned a lot of Flemish in that time.
Not a huge amount. I remember the coach saying "God verdoemer" a lot at me when I made a mistake. But other than that, not a huge amount. But it was obviously I can't believe. Thinking back now, it was 23 years ago. It doesn't seem that long, that's for sure. And it was a brilliant time for me. I loved my time at Royal Antwerp, playing at the stadium in front of the crowd. It was always a special atmosphere.
Yeah, great for having you. Thanks for doing this. It's great. Did you expect us to come here with Gunter Ribus, a former teammate of yours?
Not at all. I haven't seen Gunther for, 23 years now, but he was always a fantastic character within the changing room at Royal Antwerp. Brilliant player as well, and it's an absolute pleasure to see him this evening.
Gunter, how do you like seeing Luke again?
He changed a lot.
Really?
I wouldn't recognize him if he passed by or something. I'm really bad with faces, but really, you changed a lot. Me myself probably as well, but yeah.
Yeah,
That's something you would say.
The first thing you said to me, Gunther, was "Where's the hair gone?" Unfortunately, that disappeared a few years ago now. But like you say, you look certainly look a lot younger than me, and you haven't changed that much at all, apart from the bleached hair that you used to have back in the day.
That's just a bad camera.
All right, this episode will, mostly talk about the year 2000, the millennium year, an era where everything was possible. Luke, the year 2000, it's the future on our doorstep. It was an important year for you. You were fresh out of the Manchester United academy, and you were eager to get some real playing time in a real first team. So you joined Royal Antwerp. How did that come?
Yeah, so I was obviously at Manchester United playing in the reserve team there. Wasn't doing particularly well in terms of not as close to the first team as I think the club expected me to be. And then I was called into the office to say that the club obviously had the partnership with Royal Antwerp at the time. The club said that the manager at Antwerp had seen me play in the reserves and wanted me to go over there. And I was absolutely delighted because, like you say, I'd never played regular first team football before. This was my opportunity to do that. I remember I went over to watch a game just before Christmas to get introduced to the manager and speak to him about it. And the second that I got there, I saw the atmosphere in the stadium. It was a special place, and I couldn't wait to go over in the new year and start my my career really in earnest, playing football on a regular basis. I think my first game, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was an away game against La Louvière, and I was a substitute, and I come on off the bench, and I nearly scored a goal, but didn't quite. The second game was at home, and I was a substitute again, and when I come on, I scored a goal and ran off to the fans, and they were singing my name, and it was a feeling like I've never had before on a football pitch.
That's great. Gunter, do you remember Luke's debut game?
Yes, and his first trainings as well. Luke had something special when he played. Like I was really good in interceptions. You know, being first on the ball, because with my power and I don't have much length or not a big guy. But with Luke, he was always that little touch further away that you missed your tackle, missed your sliding, always just one tiny little too late, and then he was gone. He was like a snake person with the ball. He had a lot of elegance when he was dribbling. The last pass was something that you had to work on when you
Definitely.
started, but there was really a great player. Yeah,
Very fast is what people tell me.
yeah, and you don't have the feeling that he's fast. He looks a little bit slower than when you're competing against him. So yeah, that's
In
what I
Dutch, slow
remember
guy.
the most.
In Dutch we say een valse trage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a fake slow guy is
fake slow
the
guy.
translation. A fake slow guy. Gunter, did you see Luke as a competitor for your
Yes.
position, or okay?
Yes, yeah.
So how did you
Competitor,
sabotage? How did you sabotage him?
I made him play so good that he got a call back to replace Ryan Giggs. So I made him feel so good in the team that he played marvelous football and that he had to come back to Manchester.
Good job, good job. So, Luke, what did you think when you arrived at the stadium for the first time? Because you're used to Old Trafford and you were at Arsenal before, huge stadiums, and then you come to the Bosuil in its old state right now in 2023. It has gotten a new life with new stands and stuff, but you were there with a very old infrastructure. What were your first thoughts?
Yeah, I think I was just incredibly happy to be like playing in front of a crowd is something that I'd never really done before coming over to Antwerp. I'd play in the reserve teams where there wouldn't be many people there watching. I wouldn't really play at Old Trafford very much. So in terms of what I was used to, the atmosphere was completely different, really. It felt like every game meant so much more. Obviously, with my teammates in the dressing room, we were playing to... They were getting bonuses if we won the game. It was important. It was more important in a proper first team environment that we'd win the games. And obviously the crowd, you wanted to do well for the fans that were in the stadium because they never stopped singing and shouting throughout the whole 90 minutes and created a really intense atmosphere, which I can imagine was quite hostile for our opponents that came to the Bosuil Stadium and sort of to play against us. So it weren't as if I didn't feel like I was stepping down from anything from coming from Manchester United. If anything, it felt like I was stepping up into this first team environment that I was, like I say, experiencing for the first time.
Yeah, I think you were quite lucky in the sense that you came into a winning side. It was a team that was on a roll, very good season behind them. You joined them early January. Do you remember when the first defeat came?
I remember that we were winning more or less every game when I came over, and I know before that the team were obviously top of the league with quite a cushion. I don't remember the first time we got beat. I remember a lot of the wins because we were very.
I'll tell you, Luke. I'll tell you. It was in your first game.
Was it?
It was in the game against in La Louvière.
I thought it was
the first defeat
0-0.
of the
I
season.
thought it was a draw. Did we lose that game?
Yeah, 2-0.
Oh dear. Oh,
We always had a bad time over there.
Didn't make a brilliant first impression then when I first came over, but that might have been the reason that I managed to get in the team soon after.
So yeah, I mean it's a great sign that your first defeat comes only in January of a season. So there were only 2 defeats that season. La Louvière was one of them, and the other one came 2 games before the championship was won. So it was a good time all around, I think. Who of your former teammates can you actually remember? It's a long time ago. You were a young guy, one of the only English guys in the team. Who of the teammates do you actually remember by heart?
Yeah, so obviously the 2 other boys from Manchester, Kirk and George, who I was out there with. I think I always remember Gunther and Barry Butts, the fullback, who were quite younger guys as well, like us. I remember Sandro da Silva, he used to pick me up and take me to training when I lived in an apartment out there. Darko was an incredible footballer, one of the best players that I played with. He was absolutely astounding, really, the ability that he had. I remember Bimbo, the striker that sort of came off the bench now and again. He had like a really raw talent, had some real good ability. Patrick, of course, had one of the hardest shots I've ever seen, Patrick Goots. Gert, the captain, was an incredibly experienced player and a very good player as well. I'm trying to think. They were the guys that I remember most.
You're doing great. Yeah, you're doing great. 23 years ago is a long time ago.
It was. It does.
You got Jonas de Roek.
Jonas, another young guy.
You remember Jonas? He was
around the Belgian under-21 squad, I believe, at the time. Jonas, when we were there. Yeah. He was a very good. He played centre back or more of a defensive midfield player. Yeah, he was a really good player as well.
Yeah, he went on to do some great things, Jonas. He went to the Bundesliga, actually, and then came back to Royal Antwerp as well and had some teams in Belgium. And now he's manager of a first division side in Belgium. He's doing great.
Fantastic, that's brilliant.
Yeah. And then Gunter, of course, is doing great as well. But you had to stop football early, Gunter. We all know that. Too early. Luke, you actually went on for quite a bit. Not in the Premier League, unfortunately, but you went down the football pyramid, as we say. How did you? It's a question of a listener, actually. Does your career feel, maybe too harsh of a word, a disappointment in the sense that you feel that you could have gotten more out of it if the stars were aligned in some way, or do you think I had the best career I could have had?
Yeah, I'm sort of like really happy to have had the career that I had. Obviously, to be a professional football player when I was a child growing up was my dream. That was my ambition, and I managed to fulfil that. I obviously went out to Antwerp and done quite well in what I was doing. I was really disappointed when I was called back to go to Manchester United because I thought I was going back to be in the reserve team again. I'd been in Antwerp for quite a long time, and I was
happy.
Yeah, I bet you were. When I got back to Manchester, I was quite surprised to be in and around the first team squad. Had like a season or a season and a half when I was around the big stars and sort of getting some minutes on the pitch. I think in my second season after I got back from Antwerp, I suffered with a few injuries to my hips and pelvis. And after that, probably lost the one thing that I had as a player at Antwerp and a young player at Manchester United was real sort of pace that we were talking about, where I could run with the ball really quickly. And when I lost a bit of that, I didn't have the same effect on games that I did before. And sort of Sir Alex Ferguson spoke to me honestly and sort of told me without that sort of pace, which was my outstanding quality, I'd struggle. Well, I wouldn't have a career at Manchester United and would probably struggle to have a career at the top end of the game in the Premier League. So it wasn't, obviously it was hard to hear that, but you appreciate the honesty. And I think I recognised in myself that I wasn't the same player. So sort of changed the way that I played to a certain extent. When I was at Antwerp, I'd just run with the ball every time I got it and tried to make something happen, and then changing that to be more of someone who doesn't play that wide, comes inside the game and plays more centrally. And it took me a while to change the way that I played, and went on to sort of have a career in the lower leagues, in the Championship, League One, League Two. And it's a career that I'm extremely proud of, to have played professional football for the amount of time that I did. And in terms of, I don't have any regrets on not being a superstar at Manchester United. I think it was just the journey that I went on was my journey, and I'm incredibly grateful to have had that journey.
You're very right to be proud of it. That's not what I meant. My question was quite negative, but I just mean that in the light of, for the Royal Antwerp fans at the time, they really expected you to become a world beater, because they saw you as an amazing player, a player that could even push Gunter out of the team. So you have to be an awesome player to do that. I think the Royal Antwerp fans really had the expectation, you have David Beckham, and when he goes, Luke Chadwick is the man on the wing for Manchester United for 10 years to come. So I think it's from that perception that Royal Antwerp fans still feel like he didn't make that final cut. And we, of course, we don't watch all the matches, all the games of United or the Premier League, so we can only guess why that... how that came about. So thank you for clarifying that. So did I hear you correctly saying that you actually changed positions on the pitch? You no longer were a winger?
Yeah, I think as I got older, I'd move. As I got older and slower, I'd move further inside the pitch and would probably play as a more of a sort of a winger who played trying to find little pockets as sort of the game has evolved, and in that sort of way, in a number 10 position behind the striker, trying to find little pockets of space to turn into. Like I say, I think when I was a younger player, I'd run with the ball. If I was playing on the left, go inside and out and try and cross the ball or get shots off. Like Gunther says, that was probably a part of my game that I really needed to work on, where a lot of the times the shots would go here, there and everywhere, and the cross would end up going in the stand. But I think as I got older, it was the lack of, or not as much pace that I think you need to have at play at the top level of football in any country, that I probably didn't have that as much as I did at Antwerp, and that first season when I was back in and around the first team squad at Manchester United.
Yeah. Duncan, you've been awfully quiet.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Work.
You're about my age. Do you remember Luke playing on the pitch?
I remember it faintly. I probably have some memories in the back of my mind. I definitely went to see a lot of games that season. I remember that the last game against Münster, the championship game, I was in Spain. I was gutted. But I did see a lot of games, but I can't remember any goals. Sorry, Luke.
No worries. There weren't that many, I don't think.
In that season, in the first season you were here, because you arrived in January, you went back to United in May, I presume, and then you came back in July for another half season, right up till half October, I think. In that first part, your first stint at Royal Antwerp, you scored 5 goals in about, 15, 16 games, so that's not bad for a winger. But what most people of Royal Antwerp fans remember of that season is it was a very attacking side of Royal Antwerp. And we had this triangle up front with Darko, with Da Silva, and with Patrick Schultz. I think they got about 60 goals, Gunter. Maybe you can correct me.
Maybe. Not sure.
Patrick, on his own, scored 32. That I know for sure. So just the question is, how do you get yourself to fit into such an attacking side with established players? It are not friendly games, it are very important games to win promotion. So how do you settle in as a young guy there?
Yeah, I think when we came in, myself and George and Kirk, obviously young guys that are coming into a new country, it's quite a big thing for us to be playing in a different country, to settle in that country. But the memories that I've got is how welcoming all the guys were. They sort of obviously understood that we'd come from a big club, but we weren't playing in the first team at that big club, and we needed the support of our teammates. And I remember it being an incredibly supportive dressing room. It was obviously, you don't win a league if you've not got good players, good people within that dressing room. And it was a case of it didn't seem hard to fit in with the other players. There was no sort of animosity, like Gunter says there, that potentially I was there to take his place in the team. I didn't sort of feel that from him within training. He was always a great guy, and he welcomed us with open arms, as the other players did as well. So it was a really quite easy to fit in with the guys that were in the team at that time. And like you say, there was some exceptional players there. That front three of Darko, Patrick and Sandro were incredibly gifted players. That again, when you're playing with good players, it makes it quite easy to settle in quite quickly within that.
All right.
Yeah.
Gunter, do you remember the coach, Reggie van Acker? Did he do something special to adopt the 3 English players in January, or was it just business as usual? And
I think we had a really, really good group back then. We had some tough guys in the group. We had some different nationalities, but still the mix, it worked. It was not like Sandro da Silva was alone and the English guys were alone. It was just everybody is together and it was one team. And I think that was the most important thing to make players like Luke and other guys who came from Manchester feel at home. So it was not when we relegated in 96 or 97, can't remember.
98.
No, 98. That year we had so many different nationalities, and there was no atmosphere in the team because of those little islands of nationalities inside the dressing room. But at the time with Luke, we really had one team. So yeah, I think that's the most important reason.
Did it? I mean, how do you create such a team? Is it by drinking a couple of beers after training and after the games, or how does that work, Gunter?
Yeah, mostly. No, probably on Monday and Sunday. Those were the days that we went out after game sometimes, but we were obligated to first after the game go and drink something with Jenny, with the the fans with the just drinking the beers. We had to socialize with them. Then we went to the social upstairs. Do you remember? And the old stand.
Yeah, I remember
So
where they.
and then after that,
Sorry.
no. Where we brought some beers, and then we went to the business seats, and yeah, that was something. The team and the fans had a great connection as well. That's something that nowadays I think is not possible anymore, and that's something I think I regret.
Did the arrival of the 3 Man United guys cause any unease with the rest of the players? Like they probably, like you guys probably were thinking, oh, they have to play.
Yeah. And just to add to that, sorry, Gunter, it was actually only the second group of United players that arrived at Royal Antwerp. The first ones were Higginbotham, Jamie Wood, and Ronnie Walwork.
Yep.
That didn't go exactly as planned with some issues. And the second group was George Clegg, Kirk Hilton, and of course Luke Chadwick. So just extra information for you.
Yes, the first season with Danny was the first one to come. He is such an amazing character. He's a little bit crazy, just like all the English guys that came from Manchester. So it was really strange how they adapt and enter the group like with a lot of confidence. Some guys were quiet, but you just felt. That they came from a big club, so it's a little bit different than what you felt when you arrived at Antwerp. That we thought you were joining a little club, but for us, you were coming from Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. So for us, we had some admiration as well for you guys.
There you go, Luke.
No, but appreciate that. Obviously, very kind words, and I think from our part as well, from all the guys that come out there, obviously Danny, Ronnie, and Jamie before myself, George, Kirk, and the guys afterwards as well. There were some exceptional players that sort of went out to Antwerp over the years throughout that partnership. And I think that was testament to, in them early days, how well that we were all treated when we went out there, that was a place that was seen to send sort of the upper tier players within the sort of the academy players or the top young players, was seen as a great place for them to go and learn how to play proper football, as it were, but also a fantastic life lesson to live in a different country and experience a different culture as well.
And obviously, it was a season after United won the treble, so Champions League winners. That must have, the admiration for you guys must have been, because of that, even higher.
Yeah, I think obviously the club, that was one of the best Man United squads ever, probably during that period of time. And as a young player, you probably don't feel part of the success that much, because you're obviously fighting and striving to see if you can have a career there. But it always obviously means something to everyone at the club, particularly that treble season where it was really something quite exceptional what happened, something that you thought would never happen ever again, and then flipping Man City go and do it last year, which was a real shame.
Did you actually speak to Higginbotham and Wood and Walwork before joining Royal Antwerp? Did you speak to them about their experience in Antwerp?
Yeah, spoke to Danny and Ronnie, who I was playing with in the reserve team when they come back. Obviously, like Gunther says, Danny was an incredible character, an absolute lunatic as well at the same time. And he spoke, to be fair, despite the trouble, shall we say, that they had on leaving at the end of their spell, they spoke incredibly highly of everything about it and the whole experience that they had. And I think that was so important that they did have a good experience, despite, again, what happened at the end, for the club to then have the confidence to keep sending young players out to Royal Antwerp to learn their trade.
Yeah. It was your first and only move abroad in your football career, Luke. Is it because you never had the opportunity afterwards, or did you just like it in England and prefer to stay?
Yeah, I think it's something that I always thought about. When I was at Antwerp and I didn't really see myself going back to Manchester and playing, I thought I'd love to stay here. I was really enjoying life in Belgium. I really enjoyed playing, obviously, in the team. It was a lot more challenging in that second season, obviously in the top tier in the first division, playing against some really good clubs and really good players. But it was somewhere where I felt really free to be able to express myself in the way that I played football. So I think coming back to England, you sort of go back to reality to a certain extent, back home with friends and family and anything else. It's certainly something that, looking back, it may have been something that I would have liked to have done after playing for Manchester United. But again, we sort of had the career that we had, and I obviously love England. It's a country that I was born in, but having different experiences is so important in life in general, really. And that was a real positive that came out of my months in Belgium, a country that I loved being out there.
Yeah. Actually, in my research today, before this interview, I saw a video clip of you explaining that you actually ended up in Antwerp. It had something to do with a trip to Ibiza.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
So when I in England, when you leave school, you do Manchester United signed me on a 2-year YTS scheme, it's called there. So you have 2 years playing football every day, doing all the jobs around the training ground, the stadium, and then they make the decision whether they sign you as a professional player. And I got done really well in that 2 years and got offered a professional contract early, signed that, and then at the end of my second season, went home and thought I was really big-headed, thought I was a footballer, I'd made it, I didn't have to work hard anymore, and went off to Ibiza with my friends, drunk too much, didn't do the right things, didn't train over the summer, and went back to Manchester in really bad shape. And I think that was a big reason why I didn't perform well and wasn't anywhere near the first team, which resulted in me going out to Antwerp. So it was worth, the Ibiza trip was certainly worth it in the end.
Gunter, do you ever have a trip to Ibiza that actually, delivers something nice to you?
Only headaches. Nine times out of nine.
Luke, I remember the pictures after the championship and the championship game against Münster that all the players dyed their hair red and white. Gunter, you already had red hair or white hair at the time, bleached. Luke, did you also dye your hair back then?
Yeah, I remember that game in the dressing room before the match. They had all the spray paint that they were. I think that's the reason I'm bald now. I don't know what was in that stuff, but we had half of it red and half of it white. I remember it very well. I think we wore the kit that night that Duncan's wearing this evening, the blue kit, if I remember correctly, in that game. That's the one. Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah, I rewatched the goals of that game before this interview.
So, Thomas, I want to tell us just a small story about that. You're right. I was already white, so what they decided to make me red. But just the night before or 2 days before, I had my hair bleached, so it was really, really, really white. But when they put the thing on it, they said to me, yeah, after the shower, it goes away. It's no problem. So I had to run around with pink hair for like 6 months, but really, really pink. It's just like a popsicle, you know, the popsicle to eat. That color, it had the same color for 6 months. So
yeah, I mean, Kylian Mbappé, Antoine Griezmann, they all do it now. So you set the trend, Gunther. All right, let's see. Duncan, do you have some questions for Luke? Because you're so quiet. You're so
quiet.
preoccupied with work.
Sorry.
We can tell.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
Questions. Do I have questions? What's your favorite club after Antwerp?
So obviously Manchester United without that.
No, that you played for afterwards.
Yeah, after Manchester United. So when I was a small boy growing up, I grew up near a city called Cambridge, and Cambridge United were the sort of a lower league team that I always supported, and it was my dream as a kid to play for them, and they were actually the last team I played for before my career finished. So that was probably my favourite team to play for, was my boyhood club, Cambridge United.
The U's, right?
The U's, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
At the Abbey.
Abbey Stadium, yeah, incredible place.
Yeah, I'm just going to look at some questions. A classic question, Luke. You've probably answered this 100 times in your life, but who is the best player you played alongside?
Gunter,
in general,
obviously.
And maybe also at Royal Antwerp. After, right behind Gunter, there must be some players.
I think the best player I ever played with at Antwerp would have been, after Gunter, obviously, Sandro da Silva was someone that I loved playing with, a really clever player. I had quite a good connection with him on the pitch. Sort of, he knew where I'd make runs and found me with really good passes. Obviously, Darko as well was an incredible player. But away from Antwerp, the best player would have been Paul Scholes. I mean, every day in training, he was unbelievable. It was like he had eyes in the back of his head. The awareness that he had, he could see a pass, play short, play long, shoot. He was. I was lucky to play with incredible players at Manchester United, but Paul Scholes, I think, would have been the best one.
Yeah, he's a player who's often forgotten. I remember Xavi and Iniesta also saying that he's one of the best in the world. They learned a lot from him. They obviously didn't play together, but seeing him play was apparently very special.
Yeah, I think a lot of players that played against him say the same thing. He was a special player. Maybe didn't get the limelight of David Beckham or Steven Gerrard, that sort of player, but in my eyes was the best that I played with.
Little sidebar, Luke. A couple of weeks or months ago, maybe, you launched a story on your social media talking about a T-shirt, a famous T-shirt you, as a player at Royal Antwerp, had seen in the shopping center close to the stadium, and you went in and you wanted to buy 6, if I remember correctly, and then you asked, "Yeah, how many have you sold already of these T-shirts?" And the man behind the counter said, "Yeah, with those 6, 7." So you were looking for the person.
I was very
Have
surprised.
you found him already? Is my question.
Very surprised that they'd sold any, so I was quite happy when he said they'd sold one of them. But I remember where my apartment was very close to the shopping centre, so we used to walk there quite a lot. And went in, and there was a Royal Antwerp shop in there, and I couldn't believe to see my face on a T-shirt. So I bought them all up for friends and family to bring them back to England. I still wear my one today occasionally, but around the house only. But the T-shirt itself wasn't a great photo of me. So, like I say, I'm not surprised they didn't sell all that many.
Nah. And did you find the person? Because that was the joke in your story on your social media.
No, never.
You were looking for that one person that bought the other T-shirt.
Yeah, never found them. I don't know if the guy was just saying that to make me feel better, and really that they'd not sold any of them at all.
We'll launch the question as well on our social media. A few people of Royal Antwerp fans follow us, so people, if you know someone with a T-shirt with Luke Chadwick on the front, let us know and send a picture, and we'll get it to Luke, and then you can finally close that very important chapter. You were, of course, in a team that won promotion. Let's talk about the Engelse game. It was, for Royal Antwerp fans, it's still a reference in our culture, the Engelse game. How was it for you to be on the pitch in a full stadium and with the flares everywhere? How did it feel for you?
Yeah, it was incredible I'd never won anything before in my career, so that was the first sort of trophy medal that I'd ever won, being part of the squad that won the league that year. And it was a really special occasion in terms of going out on the pitch and seeing it was the most full up I think the stadium had been that season, and the atmosphere was really electric on the night. So it was a special night, and felt like you'd, as a young player, so special to have achieved something. A lot of players go through a career without having that experience of winning a league, and doing it with Royal Antwerp was very special. I remember sort of the next day or the day after, we went to the town hall or the city square, where we was in the big historic building, and all the fans congregated there. And again, it was something quite special, memories that I'll certainly never forget.
Gunter, do you remember anything about that game, or is it all a haze?
Yeah, I was benched. I think I only played like 20 minutes or something in the second half. But still, before the game, normally you had your normal way of doing things before a game. But right now, at that time, we all went to the. Do you remember the players' room, the upstairs?
Yeah, I remember.
Like we only had one television, a few tables, and some kicker. You know, the kicker. You could kicker. I don't know how you shotterkaske.
Voetbal.
Dan in Engels.
Voetbal.
Where we played. So yeah, we went all upstairs and saw the people coming to the club a long time before we even went warming up. So there was really a different vibe in the game against the Engelse.
Luke, you actually scored a hat-trick for Royal Antwerp as well. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember against who it was?
I'm not 100% sure who it was against. I know that was the only hat-trick that I ever scored in professional football. So when I'd done it, I thought there's going to be loads more of these to come, but it turned out being the only one that I ever scored.
All right. It was against Kortrijk. 5-1 victory. You played 90 minutes, scored 3. As I said before recording, there were quite a few. I've done a lot of research and I've read a lot of articles from that time, and quite a few mentioned you as the what's the word, the best man on the pitch, even when you don't score that many goals, because you had Patrick, you had Sandro, you had Darko, you had 5 goals, not bad, not a world beater. Assists, they're not recorded at that time. It wasn't that important, so I don't have the statistics of your assists back then. But did you experience that as well, that you were one of the better players at a Belgian second division side, of course?
Yeah, I think I was quite different to a lot of the other players in the way that I played, because I maybe stood out a little bit more because I'd try and run with the ball all the time, which was probably a little bit of inexperience on my behalf. The way that I played, it was just like, I felt so free and confident. It was just like playing in the playground, how I love playing football. And I think it gave me a lot of confidence that I was encouraged to do that by the manager, by my teammates. And also a massive thing at that time was the crowd as well. I felt like the crowd liked me. I felt like the crowd was behind me, like the crowd wanted me to do what I do and run with the ball. And that gave me a huge amount of confidence. I never would have said at that age and sort of come off the pitch and think I'm the best player in this team, because I didn't think that for a minute, but I could probably recognise that I was quite different in the way that I played to a lot of other players in that league that I was playing in, and a lot of my other teammates. And again, that was probably the exuberance of youth, of being a young player and sort of playing in front of a crowd week in, week out, every week.
Yeah, because that was a type of player you were back then, at least according to the journalists who wrote about you. Give Luke the ball, give Chadwick the ball, and something spectacular will happen. That's what I read a couple of times. Did you experience that, Gunter, as well on the training pitch? Yeah. And how did you stop him? Because he was your competitor.
Well, a competitor. He was more offensive, an offensive player than me. I was like a little biter. The ankle biter of Zayda. Eh?
Yeah, a pit bull.
A pit bull, a little one. So yeah, the different thing I saw with Luke was that he managed to still get the ball away in speed, just 1 second faster. I don't know how to explain it. It was just strange to see him take a ball with him sometimes that I thought was not possible. But that's why there is a difference between us.
Yeah, Gunter, you played alongside a few Manchester United players in your career at Royal Antwerp. Mm-hmm. Which of those, and you don't have to say, Luke, which of the United players you played alongside, did you, how do you say it, predict the brightest future? Who did you think would get furthest in his career?
Luke.
Really?
Danny,
you don't have to say Luke.
No. But especially I had a good connection with Danny because I played on the left side and Danny came as left back. So I played left in front of Danny. So we had a really good connection. He's a little bit of a crazy guy, like we said. And that connection, I don't think that we ever had that real connection. I know we talked and we made fun, but really to go out like with me and Danny, we went to the fitness together in his old BMW. So that's not something that we did, but still, talent-wise, I would say Luke definitely.
All right. Let's talk about some maybe more difficult time. Your second stint at Royal Antwerp, So we were in the first division, completely different circumstances, stronger teams to play against. You're still only 20 years old. After winning almost every game in the second division, it was a rough awakening, I assume, because you only played, 8 games before you went back to United. 8 league games for Royal Antwerp in the first division. 6 of them were losses, were defeats. So how did that feel for you? Because probably it was the first time for you, coming from United and playing at Royal Antwerp, winning everything in the second division, that you had a time week after week after week that you lost. How did you experience that?
Yeah, to be fair, I actually enjoyed, not obviously didn't enjoy losing, but I enjoyed playing against the better teams more in terms of, I remember we played Anderlecht once, who had some fantastic players, Jan Koller, Radzinski, and they were really, really top players. And it was great to be on a pitch with them and sort of pit your wits against them better players. The results didn't go as well. I actually think that we had a better team, a better squad of players the year that we got promoted, and we were actually weaker in the second season, where obviously Darko had gone, who was a massive player for us in that team. Patrick, it was a very different team of players and probably not as strong. But in terms of sort of playing in a top league, it was a great buzz. Played in some fantastic stadiums. Remember playing against Charleroi, and that was an incredible stadium. Going to play there, and we didn't have a brilliant start. And like I say, I felt really disappointed that I didn't stay and help the team that season because I got called back to Manchester United. But like I say, I hated losing like everyone in the squad and everyone in the team did, but actually enjoyed the greater challenge of playing against the better teams, probably more so than the season that we won the second division to go up.
Yeah. By the way, I just remember 2000 is, of course, the year of the Euros in Belgium and the Netherlands. Mm. So did you actually stay in Belgium and the Netherlands during the time of the Euros, or did you actually go back to England?
I was back to England for the summer. I was watching them on the telly, but I remember watching it on the telly in the stadium in Charleroi. I think it was quite new for the tournament that it had been built, and then we played there. Yeah. Really early the next season. It was fantastic to sort of go into and play on a stadium like that. But I do think we may have got beat 1-0 on the day, which was disappointing, of course.
Yeah, that's right. Good memory. You only won 2 games, so in first division with Royal Antwerp. 2-0 against Harelbeke, a team that doesn't even exist anymore, in which you won a penalty. So you actually contributed quite a lot. And then your last game, you finished your time at Royal Antwerp in beauty. Your last game, we won 1-0. You played 80 minutes, then were subbed off. And in a press article I read, it says that you were actually carried around on the shoulders of your teammates because they knew it was your last game. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. It was like I say, I'd built really good connections. I was a really quiet guy, but felt like I'd built really good connections with a lot of my teammates and coaches within that squad. And it was really disappointing to go back to Manchester. Obviously not when I got back to Manchester and I was training within the first team squad day in and day out. But it was sad to leave Antwerp, where I'd had a really enjoyable time there over the months that I stayed there.
Yeah. Can you tell us something about what you're doing right now, Luke? I know that you have joined the FFF, the Football Fun Factory, but I'll leave that to you to explain to us what that is all about.
Yeah, of course. So when I finished playing professional football, I didn't really know what I was going to do next. Didn't really have a plan of the next journey of my life, as it were, and went down the coaching route, completed my UEFA coaching qualifications, went to work at a professional football club with their young players and whatnot, and probably thought that was going to be my life now, but didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. It wasn't that much fun. I couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life, and that was when I decided that it wasn't the right path for me. And that's where sort of the Football Fun Factory was born. It was founded by a couple of my former colleagues, and it is around making football fun, as the name would suggest. So we run football programs from children from 2 years old to 12 years old, with the emphasis not being on sort of skill and talent development, the emphasis being on making football fun, but all children of any abilities, and trying to help them fall in love with the game and to have a lifelong affinity with it. So we are a franchise organisation. We've got over 80 head coaches, franchises in the UK. It's something that is incredibly rewarding to be a part of, and seeing children smiling and enjoying football. And it's been a really exciting few years since the launch of our business, and the plan is to one day become the world's leading children's football coaching organisation, which of course is a massive statement to make, not said with any arrogance or ego. We're completely aware we've got a huge amount of work to do to get there, but we do genuinely believe with what we've got, and if we can keep adding fantastic people, we can create something really special in the years to come. So that's what life looks like these days for me.
All right.
Nice.
Gunter, how did you decide what to do after your active playing career? Because as we said before, it ended too soon. How do you go about deciding what you wanted to do? Do you ever wanted to be a coach for youth players or?
No, I wanted to go away. I just wanted to
Really?
be away from football. I just wanted to prove that I could be in the private sector. I could be just as well successful like I was as football player, or I tried to be. So even I've got the advice like, yeah, you should ask a sponsor and you get a job, a little job, very easy like that. But that was not my intention. I wanted to prove myself again. That's something that's inside you, or it's not. Look, and just like you, I had a lot of doubts. What am I good in? What can I do in my professional life? So that was some difficult times.
Yeah, I can imagine it's not something you think about or you're urged to think about while you're playing football and the world is at your feet and everybody loves you, but you're not thinking, what about in 2, 3, 5 years? Should I prepare now for what I wanted to do later? Did you experience that as well, Luke?
Yeah, I think the end of my football career was probably the most challenging times of my life, really. I think in terms of, in my case, it was never admitting to myself that football was coming to an end and sort of thinking wrongly that I could keep playing and I don't want to think about what comes next, which is obviously a foolish way to think about things because no one can play football forever. So I think it is something that sort of in hindsight I wish that I thought about more, but it was that fear of admitting to yourself that I might not be able to play football anymore that challenged me in a lot of ways. I think you learn a lot about yourself in that period. I'm sure it was the same for you, Gunther, where football comes to an end and it does really push you out your comfort zone, which if you embrace that, it can cause fantastic lessons within your life and sort of come out of that side even stronger and sort of in a better place mentally than before. But I think it was something that really challenged me sort of mentally, and sort of losing what I was and who I was and sort of not really understanding myself, but at the same time forced me to understand myself and sort of know that there is loads of transferable skills that you learn in a career in professional football that you can then put into other avenues in life and have a successful life after football. So without doubt a challenging time, but a time that I'm grateful to have gone through and sort of come out of the other side.
Great. I think I have one last football question. Someone sent this in because I wasn't aware of it, but you actually played under the coach Johan Boskamp at Stoke City. Do you remember? and just to give you some context, Boskamp is, of course, he's a Dutch man, but he has a lot of TV appearances in Belgium. We kind of adopted him in Belgium as our favorite crazy Dutch person because he says so many silly things. He was a top manager in Belgium as well. He managed Anderlecht and Standaard, among others. But you had him at Stoke 2005. What do you remember from working with him? Because we see him as quite a character. How was it to work with him?
Yeah, and like what you described there as a crazy Dutchman sort of sums him up really well. But I loved him. He was when he signed me for Stoke, he sort of knew me from my time at Antwerp, and that was a big reason for him signing me. But he was obviously a massive, massive character. He could fly off the handle at any small such thing that goes on, but you felt like he really cared about you as a human being, which I think is a trait that most top managers have got. And although that he would say some crazy things and that sort of thing, you always felt like he had your back. I know that it didn't probably work out how he would have wanted at Stoke. I think it was a strange time at the club when he was in charge, but I got the utmost respect for him as a manager, but probably more importantly as a human being. I thought he was a crazy man, but a fantastic person as well.
By the way, when you played at Royal Antwerp, there were only 3 stands. The stand behind one of the goals was missing. There were only a couple of flags. Have you ever seen how the stadium looks now?
No, I would love to come back one day. I've been to Antwerp a couple of times since we left with my wife. We've just gone to the city and stayed there because it was obviously a real special time for us when we were out there. I've seen sort of on the social media, it looks a completely different stadium now to the one that we were playing in many years ago. But I'm sure one day I'll take a visit and come out and go to that great stadium again and watch the team that's done. Obviously, it's been brilliant to see how well they've done, and now to have been competing in the Champions League as well is something that seemed, I'm sure with you as well, Gun, for a long way away when we were playing there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, do you actually follow Royal Antwerp closely or not at all?
I always
it's fine to say
no. I always
you have many clubs.
Keep a lookout for the results, and obviously to see them win the league last season was brilliant to see. And there was obviously, I can imagine there's probably not many people still around the club from when I was there, but I think all the fans, everything there, deserve to see some success, and the success that they're seeing now is outstanding, really.
Yeah, there are still a couple of people around from your time, but we'll discuss that after the show, maybe. All right, Gunter, is there anything you want to tell, ask, whatever, to Luke?
Well, if he wants to come to watch a game, almost every home game I'm at the stadium, so I would be happy to see him there.
100%. Thomas was saying that you still go to home and away games, Gunter. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
So if you ever have the time, Luke, I mean, we just invited you to come over, so
I'll be there. When's the next game?
We'll fix a date in the future. The next home game, I'm not sure actually. Our next game is an away game, and then I've lost track. But we'll make something work. Thank you a lot. I'm just going to scan my questions. I think I've said everything. Thanks a lot, Luke, for your time and for being with us. I think you're a very interesting person as well to follow on social media. You talk in videos in a fun format about your career and little stints here and there and anecdotes, and it's real fun. So I advise everyone to go and follow Luke. I think it's at Luke FFF. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So you're on Twitter, on Instagram, and all the social media. Gunter, you're not on very many social media.
I am, but private.
Privately, yeah. You never post. I never see anything.
Not much.
that can be a second.
But I'm
career
gonna
coming
follow
in.
you, Luke.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
gonna
Gunter.
follow you. I'm already.
All right, Luke. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, and hope you do well in the future. And see you
It's
soon.
my pleasure. Thank you. It's great to chat to you, Thomas, and fantastic to see you, Gunther, as well.
Same. That's likewise.
Bye, Luke. Thanks.
Thank you.